All right, welcome back. Continuing our focus on what we need to do, how we need to move on. Mr. Muyiwa Shobo joins us now. He's a legal practitioner, a long-standing one at that. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thanks for having me, and good morning.
Well, looking at this, I mean, I was talking to Mr. Shito about institutionalizing this fight against corruption because, I mean, yes, you have several anti-corruption that come and go. They will always do their best, no doubt about that. And in their words, corruption will always fight back, as they always say. But from your perspective, looking at the big picture, what do you think we should be doing?
I think we have to. You see, one problem we have here is whenever we want to put in a policy to address anything, we don't take the time to actually study. Let me bring some data out and say, how effective will this policy be before we jump into it? And I'm referring to the issue of EFCC and ICPC and so on and so forth. I haven't failed to do that. I think it's now time to now sit back and say, well, should we review this approach? What have we achieved in 15 or 16 years or so that this agency has been there? And then perhaps take some steps back to look at it. Because, look, I listened to my friend, Mr. Shitu, talking about recovery of loot and so on and so forth. Okay, we have been recovering loot, stolen assets. Have that reduced corruption? And that is when you start saying things, I think it's an excuse when you say, oh, corruption will fight back. Corruption is just criminal activities. And we have the police. That's why you have police and law enforcement agencies in any country. Now, when you start bifurcating their responsibilities, you run into bureaucratic issues that we are confronting now, in the issue of the EFCC, the ICPC, the fraud unit, and so on and so forth. So, having done that, we've tried that. Can we go back and review? Can we just have it studied? Have some people to look at it. Has it been effective? What have we achieved? How many people have we sent to prison? Look, the only thing that deters crime is jail time. It's not, you steal something, it's not yours. I mean, so if I recover it from you, what have you lost? Except something you've stolen, which is not yours in the first place. So, but if I send you to jail, I mean, you're there for 20, 30 years. I mean, people looking at you, people looking at that. It's a sort of
if I get you properly,
yes.
I mean, every country in the world have corruption issues
yes.
to deal with. But the processes, the institutions that they put in place, could be the determining factor.
Yes, but if you look at other countries, what institutions do they put in place to fight corruption? Except the police. Look at the United States, you have the FBI. I mean, they just go after. I mean, you can create. Look at our own policing system here. When we had this issue of riots, we come up with this anti-riot squad. When we had issues with robbery, we come up with this anti-robbery squad. Within the police, can we not have anti-corruption squad?
Is that not the offshoot of the
yes,
EFCC is the offshoot
yes,
of that?
But when we created EFCC as a separate entity from the police.
Even though we had a special fraud unit as well.
Yeah, are we not creating bureaucratic bottlenecks there? Now, when we set up the EFCC and the ICPC or whatever, we are creating bureaucratic bottlenecks. You have them, they have their staff, they have trainers, they have all kind of stuff. I am saying that the fight against corruption is basically a police work, investigation, going after criminals, just like go after armed robbers and stuff like that. Look at the institution.
So is it then a misplaced thinking when there is an advocacy to find models that can help fight corruption for this country?
I don't know where they got a model for the EFCC from, but everywhere I look, I'm just seeing the police doing their work. You have specialized units of the police doing their work. Now, if you look at the EFCC and call it a specialized unit, maybe, but then you created a commission. I don't know what the commission sit down to determine what, who will be jailed, who will be prosecuted, and so on and so forth. The same thing with the ICPC.
Are you going to advocate, if you were with the acting president now,
yeah.
and you were to talk to him about this, would you be telling him that perhaps he should bring back the EFCC, the ICPC, and put them back under the police?
Hey, that's what I will advise him to do. Strengthen the police. hire more people, train more police.
What about restructure?
Restructure the police. I mean, look at what EFCC has been doing, and I'm not knocking the EFCC. I think they're trying, but the structure is not supporting them. What you hear all the time is, oh, we have recovered 47 cars. We have recovered 900 million hidden under the well somewhere. Fine, you can recover all those loans, but are people in jail? What deters crime is punishment.
Yeah,
punish them, put them in jail.
Let's look at that part a little further, because you have those who will argue that number one, they'll say, well, if the EFCC gets these people or gets evidence and then they proceed to court, at that stage it's out of their hands, partially, maybe 50%, because their counsel have to make their case in court.
Yeah.
So if they do get to court, then it takes far longer to send them to jail, even though some things should be correctional facilities.
Yes, yes.
And if it takes that much time, number one, will we blame or should we blame the commission? And secondly, you have the other side of the argument where they'll say, well, after all, we had judges who have said the EFCC in time past, go do your investigations properly. If you don't do that properly and you come to the court, your case will fall flat on their faces. You can't have a lawyer come and bring a 106 count charge on certain persons. That has to be properly done. So, how do we proceed?
Well, first, I'm not blaming the EFCC. I think whatever dictated the creation of EFCC was right for that time. Okay, but my point is, let us review. Times changed. Do we need another approach? Now, going to the issue of prosecution. But look, any police officer will tell you, if you are chasing criminals and you catch them somewhere, and the next thing you do is go into the pages of newspaper and blow that out, you are not helping yourself. You may be doing something politically correct or political for reasons best known to you. Evidence is what you use to convict, to prosecute. Now, once you contaminate that evidence, you have no case in court. So we may blame the structure of the court and say, well, maybe things need to be adjusted over there too. But when you bring a case to court, you have to bring a very credible case that can be prosecuted well. Witnesses, evidence. How do we preserve all those? If you go and talk about asset forfeiture, preliminary asset forfeiture, oh, we forfeited 500 cars. Why are you keeping those cars? Who is in charge of those evidence that you have collected? And so you can't blame the court. If the EFCC now comes with 600 charges, then we look at it. You're overwhelming number of charges.
But there's a new sheriff. There's a new sheriff in town, in the person of the new CJ and Walter Onogan. Do you, for instance, foresee a situation where some of those illegally acquired wealth and, of course, materials, the vehicles and all that you've mentioned, do you see a judiciary that is more responsive now that the new sheriff is in town and perhaps will take the fight against corruption to a new level?
Yes, we're always trying, but what we do most of the time is we just repeat the same thing over and over again, and then we expect different result each time. We know the judiciary has, there are problems there, which we have talked about for ages, okay? So let's separate them. Investigation and then prosecution, okay? When we look at the investigation, you look at the structure of investigation and you look at the structure of the judiciary, you have to now match them together.